All right, good afternoon. My name is Raghav Gupta. I'm the Managing Director of Coursera in India and APAC. I don't know if this is the right thing to be saying at a launch like this, but I have goosebumps. Super excited to be here. I think it is amazing, and I'm personally very delighted to be with all these leaders in the room from academia, from business. I'm glad the Coursera team from around the world could be here today as well. Along with everybody in the room, we have a live online audience as well. And it's going to be super important for us to make sure this is seamless for them. So we'll try and keep this on track and on time. So on behalf of all Courserians, my colleagues in India, I'm super excited to welcome you to the launch of Coursera for Campus. We've been working hard on this for the last many, many months, and I'm really glad to see that this is coming to fruition. What's interesting, and I feel personally very honored to be able to launch Coursera for Campus right on the heels of Gandhi Jayanti. You know, the father of the nation envisioned an India which is bold, which is modern, which is confident, where economic opportunity is available to everyone. And I don't need to say it to this room, but education is the key to that economic opportunity. And that's why we are launching Coursera for Campus. The idea is to be able to take high quality learning opportunities to students, faculty, alumni in many, many campuses in India and around the world. And we are very excited to be bringing this to all of you. I'm really glad that along with our leaders, Jeff is here from Mountain View. We have a packed agenda. And what we will show you is what we've been working on as a part of Coursera for Campus. We have senior executives from Coursera from around the world joining us. And along with our team, we also have our partners from around the world as well as from within India who will share some of what we've been doing together as a part of getting Coursera for Campus ready. It's a packed agenda. We will hear from our partners via 2 panel discussions as well. And hopefully they'll be able to share with us their vision, their objectives, their learnings, their results so far from some of the early results on Coursera for Campus. We did a press launch 2 hours back, 1 hour back, and some of the media coverage is starting to come. So hopefully this will create a lot of good momentum for us to be able to take Coursera to students around the world. Personally, my hope is that all of us in this room today will look back to this event today and take lots of pride in having been a part of something that we've launched that will hopefully impact higher education in a very significant manner at many, many campuses around the world. With that, I'm going to invite our CEO, Jeff, and our Director of Product, Shwetab, to kickstart the session with their keynote presentation. Jeff.
Thank you, Raghav. So I'm inclined to say welcome to the Coursera global launch of Coursera for Campus. I was just hearing Rupa say, all my friends are here. So thank you for welcoming me to be part of this community. It sounds like there are lots of relationships in the room. And one of my favorite parts of being at Coursera is being a part of a collaboration network, a part of a community of people who all perceive a common challenge, which is the global education and equal opportunity to access high-quality education around the world, and a way of sharing not only the nature of the challenge, but sharing glimpses of what the solutions look like. And I hope that what we'll talk about here is both the way we see the challenge, but also the way we start to see how that challenge might be met. So thank you very much for joining, and it's a thrill to be here to present Coursera for Campus. I was at the World Economic Forum Summit this morning and meeting with the former Minister of Skills Development. And clearly there's a broad recognition that we are living in challenging times. With the rate of change in technology, in data, in automation, with social media, things are just changing more quickly than they ever have, driven by technology and globalization. And this can really create a threat of leaving large portions of the population behind. But I'd like to also say that it creates the opportunity, unprecedented opportunity, for people who've never had the privilege of accessing things like higher education to actually get access to that higher education. So I think we're at a moment where we can take threats and really capitalize on them and make them opportunities. Today, McKinsey estimates over the next 10 years, about 300 million people will be entering the workforce over the next 10 years. And it's not going to be evenly distributed. They expect about 100 million people to be joining the workforce in India, 60 million in China, 40 million in Brazil, 100 million around the rest of the world. And this is happening at a time where technology and automation threaten to fundamentally redesign the way work gets done, especially for job activities that are predictable and repeatable, things that AI can make good predictions on and robotics can do in a cheaper, more effective, automated process. You're going to see a really big impact on these jobs. McKinsey estimates about 400 million people will be impacted by jobs, and about half of job activities around the world are likely going to be impacted by automation and technology. Something that I think really doesn't get enough attention is the question of who's really going to be most severely impacted. And that's not going to be uniform either. So in a recent Bloomberg article, they published a chart that I really liked that showed on the x-axis the risk of automation to certain jobs, and on the y-axis, the wages. And what we did here is we plotted this where the color of the bubble is the typical education level achieved by people in that job. So red is no formal education, blue is college degree, the other colors are in the middle of that spectrum. The size of the bubble is the amount of jobs, this is in the US, but the amount of jobs held by people in that job profession. What you can see really clearly is these huge red bubbles, which means low-wage people who have very low or no formal education are almost certainly going to be massively impacted by technology and automation. On the other hand, high-wage people who have college degrees have very little likelihood of having a majority of their job activities impacted by automation. And when I look at this, I really think there is a moral imperative to make sure that everybody has access to higher education because it will really threaten certain types of jobs more than others. Now, getting access to higher education is not easy, as a lot of folks here in the audience know well. On average, UNESCO says about 40% of people following high school start any formal education. This is also not distributed evenly around the world. In India, many of us know, only about 1 in 4 graduating from high school start any formal education program. In China, it's about 40%, Brazil 46%, Mexico less than 40%. So creating more access to higher education is really important. And precisely in the countries where you see these tens of millions of people entering the workforce, typically in entry-level jobs, lower-skilled jobs, those are the jobs most likely to be impacted by automation. Those also happen to be the countries that have the lowest access rates to education. So we really need to upskill the ability not only of individuals to perform certain jobs, but also institutions to serve more individuals who need to learn those skills. When we look at challenges facing universities around the world, one is that a lot of graduates, employers would say, aren't ready for the workplace. So a Gallup poll in the US found that well less than half of students felt well prepared for the workplace. The Wiley Corporation found about 50% of employers said they have a skills gap, and they attribute some of that to the fact that the educational system isn't creating the kind of graduates that they would like. And what's really tricky is that this is only going to get more challenging. As the world moves faster and faster, and new skills emerge more quickly, and existing skills become obsolete more quickly, the need to be dynamic, the need to get better education and more dynamic education into our institutions is growing. I think in China, it's pretty fair to say that limited capacity is one of the biggest challenges. So we estimate, just sort of back of the envelope, that to take the gross enrollment ratio from 26%, the Prime Minister said in 6 years he'd like it to get to 35%. It implies about 250 universities if they were to be built with brick and mortar. We believe that online education is a wonderful way to expand capacity and expand access to the amazing education that's already available in these institutions. Another one which we've already talked a bit about is graduate employability. A lot of this, and there's a debate. Frankly, there's a debate. Many people, I'll put myself in this category, really question whether micro-skilling is going to lead to a really responsive and durable human capital and labor workforce. I think the idea that you can have a broad-based education, but you can punctuate it with really job-relevant skills is really the right combination. But in any event, data fluency is a requirement in the job these days. Generally speaking, knowing how to program, or at least knowing how programming works, is a job requirement. And now in business, business agility, leadership, communication, influencing these soft skills are becoming more and more important as well. One of the challenges of trying to meet this need of changing the way that students go through the program is, although students, and my youngest daughter is 22 years old, she's a junior at Duke. I have another daughter who's 25, and my oldest is 28. And what their experience was like learning prior to college was vastly different than my experience. They have iPhones, they're on YouTube, they're learning all the time digitally. But interestingly, and the oldest two went to Stanford, the little ones at Duke, their experience on campus is not so different from my experience on campus. So there's really a lag between the way people are learning as they're growing up, and even in high school, digital education is happening very quickly. Institutions of higher education need to keep up with the students, and the students are expecting more dynamic, more personalized, more digital learning experiences, and it's important for faculty members to have a way to start learning how to teach online, because it will be, in my opinion, it will be fundamental that every university is teaching on campus and online and doing it in a blended way. So when we think about Coursera, and this will start teeing up kind of what Coursera for Campus really means and how we evolved in a way to come to this point, we really think about ourselves as an ecosystem that brings together some of the key stakeholders in this learning challenge. Today we have 44 million registered learners on Coursera who come to Coursera to learn and prosper. We work with educators around the world, and now we have Coursera for Business with employers, and learners are really saying, how can I learn to advance the economic opportunities that are available to me? Today we have about 200 university and industry partners, so these are universities and businesses, who've published over 3,600 courses on Coursera, and Shweta will actually go through the catalog and give you a sense for what that course portfolio looks like. And they come to Coursera to teach the world. It really involves a couple things. One is reaching a global audience of learners around the world, both directly through B2C, but also through the workplace. We talk about lifelong learning. People are going to be working for most of their lives. If we talk about lifelong learning, they're going to have to be learning at work. And so our educator partners want to get access to these large populations of learners, and they want a platform to author and deliver high-quality education at very low cost. And then finally, 3 years ago, we announced Coursera for Business. Basically, businesses around the world are realizing that digital transformation is upon them. Digital transformation means trying to keep up with your customers and competitors who are changing very rapidly and on a global basis. We have found in the first 3 years, 2,000 companies hired us. What they're really looking to do is upskill their workforce primarily in data science, technology, and business. Those are the three primaries. There's also a growing interest in mental health and well-being. So we're seeing a lot of anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues also compromise some of the productivity of individuals. It's not just technical skills that individuals are really needing. So we launched 3 years ago Coursera for Business. Shortly after that, Coursera for Government. We have a number of governments that we're now working with. And when you think about Coursera, think about us really as a platform that brings together these learners, these educators, and these employers so that collectively we can collaborate to address this massive global skills development challenge. I mentioned 44 million learners. The representation of learners on Coursera basically looks like this. The most represented country, probably not surprisingly, is the US. Second is India, with 4.8 million learners, followed by China, followed by Mexico, followed by Brazil. But it really is a global audience, and it's growing fastest in emerging markets. A lot of mobile use and a lot of basically using mobile to get access to high quality online. When you look at some of the demographics of Indian learners, they're typically younger, they're typically more male, they're typically using mobile more than other countries, they're studying more computer science than other countries. Taking a quick look at our 2,000 businesses, we have 50 businesses in India who've hired Coursera for Business to upskill their employees. But you can see a wide range of companies around the world, multinationals, who are struggling to find the speed and scale that they need to create a workforce with the kinds of skills that they know are going to be needed to do the jobs of the future. And what they've often said is, we cannot fire and hire our way out of this problem. We have to reskill the people who are currently at work, and turning to a platform where providers and a lot of great courses is the way that they're choosing to do that. What you'll see from Shwetab's presentation is this proximity that Coursera has to the workplace, knowing that these companies are looking for these types of skills and these types of functions, gives us a pretty good idea of what might make graduates more relevant to the workforce that they're about to enter. So taking the Coursera for Business demand signals, if you will, and helping universities see what are the skills that are demanded in the workplace will help to refine over time the type of curriculum and type of skills that are being taught on campus. I mentioned Coursera for Government. We're working with a number of governments. Largely, this is an issue of employment. So governments really want to try to drive unemployment rates down. They realize that there's a big threat that unemployment rates go up. As automation and technology automates jobs, especially those economies that are built on services that are predictable and repeatable, they're thinking about how to outrun automation by rapidly upskilling large portions of the population. And that's pretty much what we're doing with these countries around the world. When we think about our university partners, today we're at about 170 universities. Most of them are in North America and in Europe. We have over 15 in Latin America, 8 in Russia, over 10 in China. Indian School of Business is one of our long-term Indian university partners, and we just announced 2 days ago, IIM Calcutta is going to be putting on 2 master track certificates, one in management science and one in supply chain analytics on Coursera. So we're very excited about the possibility of really growing our portfolio of Indian university partners to complement this global university partnership network that we already have. So that's really good for 170 of the universities. But when we look out there and we say, all right, IIM Calcutta is coming onto the platform, that's a step. But how do we get to all the other 20,000 universities around the world who collectively are educating about 200 million people? Just being content to work with 170 universities, in our opinion, is not enough to really move the needle and to drive the mission of Coursera, which is to transform lives through learning on a global basis. We thought, okay, a lot of learning happens in institutions. We helped with businesses to upskill their employees. We're helping with governments to upskill their civil service workers and workforce development programs. But there's another type of institution who really, at its heart, is all about knowledge, collaboration, and skill development. And that's universities. And so our best answer to helping universities worldwide, beyond just India, is to really offer a solution like Coursera for Campus. And so I'll briefly give you an overview of what Coursera for Campus is, and then I'm going to ask Shwetab to come up and step through it in a little bit more detail. I like Raghav. I have goosebumps too. I love this product. I'm so excited. And what it does is it enables any university or college in the world to offer high-quality, job-relevant online learning to students, alumni, faculty, and staff. So we really hope that Coursera for Campus can help support the digital transformation of higher education around the world. We're going to talk about 3 major pieces of Coursera for Campus. The first and probably most important is immediate access to job-relevant courses and credentials from a number of universities around the world, our content partners who have over 3,600 courses. What this really allows a university to do is to basically buy subscriptions like a textbook. It's like a 21st century textbook to say, I'm going to allow my students to take negotiation courses from Yale, business courses from HEC, supply chain analytics courses from Calcutta, or any of the other universities in the catalog, and immediately provide more job-relevant training in things like data science, artificial intelligence, computer programming, cloud computing. So that's really the immediate solution to provide more skills development capability in universities. But a second, and I think more important in the long-run piece of Coursera for Campus, is that we decided as part of this offering to allow any college or university who uses Coursera for Campus to have the full set of authoring capabilities on Coursera for free, so that their faculty can actually develop online courses for their students, faculty, staff, and alumni at no cost. And not only use supplemental courses from other universities, but start beginning to develop the skills to develop and deliver online learning to their private audiences. So faculty to author and scale online programs for free to private audiences is a huge part of Coursera for Campus. And then finally, people talk about lifelong learning, which I think is an imperative because of how fast the world's moving and how quickly knowledge and skills is changing. The idea of lifelong learning we see is it's a restructuring of the relationship between universities and their students. I think too often a university has a transactional relationship. It's a 4-year transaction. You get admitted, you pay us the tuition, you graduate, you get your credential, and we'll try to stay in touch. But in a world where the alumni will need to keep learning new skills, there's an opportunity for universities to change the nature of the relationship between the university and the students to a lifelong learning partnership. So the idea that universities can use Coursera for Campus to author private courses not only for students when they're on campus, but for alumni when they've left, and to connect alumni to students so that you have more of a mentor relationship with many of your students, and you create a tighter bridge through your alumni community between what's happening in the workplace and what's happening on campus. So lifelong learning is another major piece of what we're trying to achieve with Coursera for Campus. So that's a really high overview, and now I'd like to introduce Shwetab Mittal, who's our product manager for Coursera for Campus, who's going to walk you through some of the features and functionality, and then we'll open it up for questions after actually hearing from some of our partners. Shwetab.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm a director of product management at Coursera, and I'm really excited to be here to actually talk through how we're bringing this massive proposition to life through our product. Let's first focus our time on thinking about on-campus students, the student population that's on top of mind for all universities across the globe. As Jeff mentioned, with Coursera for Campus, we're bringing together job-relevant learning and credentials to students so that they can be prepared to enter the workforce upon graduation. You've all known Coursera to be an incredible source of high-quality education. And this has been thanks to all of our teaching partners that are top universities and companies in the world. Our teaching partners like Illinois, Duke, Imperial College, Yale, and companies like Google, Amazon, and IBM have done a great job of bringing high-quality education to our platform. And from these institutions come world-renowned faculty that teach on our platform. Take, for example, Martin Ruderski, who created the programming language Scala, or Andrew Ng, who's an eminent figure in the world of AI and leads deeplearning.ai, or Robert Schiller, who's a Nobel-winning professor from Yale University teaching economics-related courses on Coursera. And when all these amazing faculty come together on a platform like ours, the result is the high-quality education that really can drive a lot of skills development for your learners. Our platform has courses from business, technology, data science, health, social sciences, and arts and humanities. Altogether, this is a portfolio of more than 3,600 courses that have more than 70,000 lessons and over 240,000 high-quality assessments. But that's not all. Our platform continues to add more and more courses. We add more than 600 courses per year from these amazing institutions and their faculties. Jeff mentioned earlier that more than 2,000 companies worldwide have hired Coursera to upgrade their employees to be able to do well at their jobs. And this puts us in a very unique position. This helps us understand the skills that employees are learning today to be good at their jobs, which also means that we are in this unique position to be able to tell the skills that your learners should be learning to be job relevant when they go out to the market upon graduation. And with our curriculum, you can integrate these courses right into your on-campus experience and as part of your for-credit experience in the university. All of this experience is delivered through the Coursera for Campus platform. And this Coursera for Campus platform has really been created in a manner that it's fully co-branded so that it looks like an experience for your university, for your students on campus. Take, for example, the Manipal University landing page. This is a landing page for students that are learning today at Manipal University. This is a co-branded experience. It looks exactly the way they would expect any other university portal to look like. And in addition to that, we integrate all of our platform with your university workflows through API integrations, through SSO integrations. In addition, we have spent a lot of time in making sure that faculty have the data points that they need to be able to do the day-to-day management of students, things such as gradebooks. And then last but not the least, we know academic integrity is a big part of any teaching institution. And for that reason, we've spent a lot of time in terms of making sure that our platform provides the right academic rigor for your students when they're learning online. We have integrated with the leading plagiarism detection platform, such that when your students submit any assignment on Coursera, we can give you a similarity score of how they have a similarity score against everything that's available on web, everything that's available in a couple of research areas, but also how does it compare against the submissions from their classmates. So that gives you a lot of confidence in terms of how academically integration is happening on our platform. Now let's focus our attention on faculty and think about how Coursera can help your faculty create online courses and move into the world of digital learning. At Coursera, we've been spending a lot of time in bringing together online pedagogy and online teaching experience that can really help your faculty create online programs that are scalable, effective, and highly engaging. With Coursera for Campus, we're bringing all of this world-class authoring facilities and toolkits to your faculty and on campus. With this authoring toolkit, you can create private courses, private assessments, private labs for your students. And all of these pieces are created in a modular and completely reusable fashion, such that as your private catalog of courses continues to increase, you can reuse components that are being created once and used multiple times and create a lot of leverage for your faculty as the portfolio continues to grow. And not just that, we are doing a lot around analytics. Any of the courses that have been authored on Coursera come with an out-of-the-box analytics platform, and that gives a lot of data points to the faculty to make sure that they are spending their time towards the things that matter the most, rather than spending themselves thin across everything. Another big area that we pride ourselves on is helping with the daunting challenge of authoring technical projects online. And this is where Coursera Labs comes into play. You can create any kind of technical project with any cloud or desktop application as part of the technical project experience, and the students have to do no installation of the software. All of the software that are needed for the students to do their technical project are put together in a virtual machine and made available to the students through a VM, a virtual machine in a browser. So the students can actually go and just put it up, and they don't have to make any installation. And on the right-hand side, they can actually follow the faculty who's actually teaching these projects in real time. And this follow-along piece could also be made pre-recorded so that this creates scalability for your faculty. So ultimately, this makes a very engaging and a scalable platform for your faculty to create online technical projects with confidence. Another example of this is data science notebooks. Data science is becoming a part and parcel of most functions, most disciplines today. And we wanted to make sure that authoring data science-related projects on Coursera is an easy path. That's why we integrate with Jupyter Notebooks and other browser-based IDEs, so that students can do a lot of analysis and visualizations all together in a browser without having to install anything. And all of this is integrated with our gradebooks. Another big belief at Coursera, and this is a pattern that we're seeing across the world, is that everyone should learn how to code. It teaches a lot of basic skills, and which is why we've been investing a lot in browser-based IDEs. Here is an example of a browser-based coding session where the student really brings up a browser where all of the IDE is loaded in the browser. The student has to do no installation of compilers or any programming libraries. It's all available to them, and they can start learning right away without having to think about complicated setup that sometimes fails, and so on and so forth. Now let's talk about the analytics piece. I personally am actually very excited about the amount of data that we create and the amount of data that we use to generate insights for our faculty. Here is an example of a course progress dashboard. You can see here the faculty can understand for any courses that they've privately authored that how students are actually progressing through each of the items on our platform. And with this real-time feedback, they can really focus their energy on the things that matter the most. So for example, here you can see that there is a module drop rate of about 11% at a certain module. They can focus their attention on making that better versus focusing their attention on something that has a 1% drop rate because it wouldn't matter that much. And the result of this is essentially the faculty is improving the course day by day so that it becomes more and more better version of itself as they progress through the course. Another such example is the ability to detect how students are doing on our platform. Take, for example, this dashboard that we have created for understanding what students' risk level is. With the data that we collect on our platform, we can tell with confidence if a student is on track or is at risk or is slightly behind. And with this, faculty can put their attention towards the student that needs the most intervention and support versus students that actually already are on track. They're already ahead, so why spend energy on them? And we don't just stop there. We've spent a lot of effort, and of course, the data science learning that we teach to the world, we've implemented ourselves on our platform. We create a lot of AI-powered nudges on our platform. So here you can see two examples of someone receiving a nudge on their email and them receiving another nudge on their mobile platform, which essentially means that the students can find the motivation that they need in an online platform to not feel alone, but actually feel someone's holding their hand to go through the completion. Skills development has become a very nebulous concept. And we've been investing a lot of time in our skills graph that's essentially the backbone of how we understand what skills are being developed as part of any course. Here is an example of skills development dashboard that takes the guesswork out of understanding what skills are being developed, how quickly are they developing, how many students are doing that. This example shows essentially how many students have developed a certain skill, what's their proficiency level, and there's a full suite that helps you understand how quickly are they getting there, how much time are they spending on it, what are the exact skills they've developed. Essentially, you can measurably know the skills that your students have developed without having to do that through formal assessments. Lifelong learning is becoming an imperative in the modern day and economy. Once you've graduated from school, and this is a great data point that Jeff shared, the half-life of skills is only 5 years, which means soon enough, you're going to have to reskill yourself for the next job or your field that you're currently in and how that's quickly changing. And with Coursera for Campus, we are bringing together a platform that allows you to reach, engage all of these different student audiences long before they are on campus and long after they've left the campus. Most LMS systems allow you to create a certain course or a certain assessment, but they don't really have the content that you can use right away to start teaching your students. With Coursera for Campus, you have best of both worlds. You can start with one of our great courses to start teaching your current students. And on top of that, if you want to go further, you can author your private courses or private assessments or private projects for the students. But then why stop there? You can extend that relationship for your alumni, and you can give the courses that they need for their jobs long after they've graduated from school. Or work with your incoming students so that they have the right prerequisite skills so that they can be successful the moment they land on campus. And of course, faculty and staff need to keep abreast with everything that's changing, everything that they need to teach to their students. But again, a lot of LMSs don't allow you to deal and engage with student populations that are non-tuition paying. With Coursera for Campus, we allow you to reach and engage all of these different learner populations, be it students, alumni, faculty, and staff. You can curate different courses for them. You can have a different engagement strategy for each of them. And of course, you can see how they're learning the skills, how quickly are they learning the skills, so the analytics applies to each group. But of course, we know that as part of product, if you build, they may not necessarily come, which is exactly why we have made sure that our platform is fully mobile ready right out of the box. Every course that is created and authored on platform, be it public course, be it private course, is mobile ready. Your students can learn whenever and wherever they want in the modality they want. They can be learning on their iPad. They can be learning on their phone. They can sync their calendars with the deadline so that they don't miss a thing. Our Coursera for Campus offering comes with a full service suite. We provide services to allow you to create the right content for your students in the right disciplines. We also provide you the hand-holding and the guidance for your faculty to develop online courses and assessments privately for your students. There are a full suite of implementation and support services to integrate Coursera for Campus and co-brand the Coursera for Campus environment for your university. And of course, there is customer success, who will be a dedicated customer success manager to manage the relationship with Coursera and to make sure that you are getting the maximum benefit out of the Coursera for Campus product. And I'd love to take all the credit for saying this was Coursera for Campus was a Coursera idea, but that would really be an understatement. It's really come to life because 20 partner universities have been working with us for more than a year to refine and collaborate the ideas. In fact, some of them were the initial pioneers of this idea. And then more than 10 universities who've been using an early version of this. To be ready for prime time, we've validated the concept with leaders of more than 50 universities globally, and we understand what is it that it'll take to make this a part of your on-campus experience. And with that, I'd like to invite Raghav back, who's going to talk about our initial pilot customers.
So as Shwetab shared, I mean, Coursera for Campus has been in the works for the last year and a half, close to 2 years. And this wouldn't have been possible without a lot of people who are in this room, who've been working with us, experimenting with us, learning together. And I'd love to announce some of these names. We'll hear from them later in the evening, but I'd just love to share who they are. So founding members of Coursera for Campus. We started right at the start with Duke University. Matthew Raskoff is here. We'll hear from Matthew later on one of the panels. And then with Manipal, I think it's been phenomenal learning together. Ravi's here. I know Adarsh is in the room as well. Some of this has been great learning for us together to be able to bring Coursera for Campus to life. University of Illinois, Arshad is here, and we will hear from you on one of the panel discussions shortly. And then from NMIMS, who, Dr. Rajan Saxena is here and Dr. Sharad Maishkar is here. We will hear from them on what some of their plans and experiences so far have been. Also, from within the Indian education ecosystem, we are launching with Shiv Nadar University. Dr. Rupa Manjari Ghosh is here. And we'd love to hear from you. You've also recently received the Institute of Eminence, so lots of stuff happening at Shiv Nadar University, which is really good to see. Dr. Mantha is here from KL University, along with Dr. Ramkumar. And so, looking forward to working together with you. And then from UPES and Pearl, we have Sharad, who's here, and Nandita and Ramnik, who are in the audience as well. So we'd love to hear from all of you. This is going to be an exciting journey. All of us have been working together on this. And I think Jeff and Shweta mentioned this earlier. Along with all of these university partners, a lot of our teaching partners have already adopted Coursera for Campus. And they've been using a lot of our content for teaching to their on-campus students. And this is, like I said earlier, my hope that this is a movement that we're launching, which all of us will look back to and take great pride on. So I'm going to open up for questions. I'm going to request Jeff and Shwetab to join back up on stage. And we'll take questions about what we've kind of shared now. The way I think we'd like to do this is, I think we have 3-4 mics. So if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, I just request if you could share your name and the name of your organization. If it's a comment, please do share it, keep it brief. And if it's a question, absolutely, we'd love to answer. I think we have a question here. Dr. Das has a question as well. Can we circulate some mics? I'll just get your mic, sir. Why don't you go ahead and I'll come right to you.
Hi, my name is Himadri Das.
Can we get this mic going?
Hi, Himadri Das, International Management Institute. you talked about an LMS. Is it a third-party LMS you have integrated into, or is it a LMS built by Coursera? And how do we, tie into it if we want to adopt it?
Yep. Oh, my mic is on. Yeah. So for us, we are integrating with all LMSs through our APIs. And in fact, we take great pride in saying that LMS systems are something that run the university. They are part and parcel of the university for the on-campus students, and we integrate directly with the LMS systems through our APIs. I think to your point about is this an LMS play by Coursera? I think we are looking at this as an LMS Lite, which allows universities to actually go outside of what a typical LMS will allow you to work with, which is essentially tuition-paying students that are on campus. This is that and much more, and that's where we're actually hoping that we'll go.
But we expect that many universities will stay on their own LMS. They'll supplement the content on Coursera. Other on-demand courses that they want to run at scale for off-campus populations would likely be authored and delivered simply on Coursera. But where there's a blend of learning, the single sign-on and the integration with Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, et cetera, would be something that most universities would probably want to do.
Actually, part of my question was, is there also a Coursera LMS? If I don't have an LMS today, then do I need to get an LMS that I then API integrate into Coursera, or is there a Coursera LMS as well?
Yeah, the way that I like to think about it is with Microsoft Word back in the day, there were many features. People very feature rich. When Google Docs came out, it didn't have all those features, but it did collaboration really, really well. This is not a full-featured LMS, but there are many universities that are running their whole degree programs on Coursera and just Coursera. So I do think so long as there's not an expectation that there's a very featurist LMS, I think there are many universities that might say, you know what, I really am more interested in the scalability, on-demand collaboration, lifelong learning. I don't need all those additional features. This will be good enough. But for many universities, they'll say, I want full LMS capabilities, and we won't be able to match the raw feature set of the current industry standards.
Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Syed Hasnain. I used to work for IIT Delhi, and now I'm working for an institute known as Jamia Hamdard. Our university is the 5th highest ranking private university declared as an institution of eminence, along with Professor Ghosh, and we are the 3rd highest ranking in Delhi. We have professional courses in our programs, all of them. I have a question maybe to you, because Indian operations. Online learning, how does it stand vis-a-vis regulators such as UGC, regulators such as AICTE, regulators such as the Medical Council of India? Because these are the courses that we do. Our pharma is ranked as #1 in the country for the last several years. And we have a medical school, which is also ranked very high. It's the 3rd highest ranking medical school in the city of Delhi. So how do we rank, how do we work with you? And the last question would be, but before I go to the last one, let me ask you, one of your slides that I think, Jeff, you presented, you mentioned 20% dropout end of the program. Where do these students go who drop out, and why did they drop out? And the last question is, how do we, if I want to work with you, we have been talking to Upgrade, something they are planning in a similar way in India. They have already tied up with IIT Chennai and IIT Bangalore, and we had a few discussions with them. So I thought Coursera would be interesting to come and attend to. These are the questions to you.
Sure. I can take the first one and then come to you guys for the second and the third. So I'll say this as somebody who's not a regulatory expert, but I'll share my understanding, and you'll hear from our panel members later today from Dr. Saxena, Dr. Ghosh. So our understanding is that the government and the regulation is opening up very actively towards online learning. As you know, the government is already encouraging use of SWAYAM and other platforms. A number of universities already have the autonomy to be able to use not just online learning as non-credit learning, but also as for-credit learning. And I believe that percentage is at 20%. And we'll hear from Dr. Saxena a lot more around the specifics of this as well.
As of today, online learning for the purpose of getting a degree is restricted by the UGC. You need UGC's approval. Being a former member of the UGC, I know this is the rule as of today.
Yeah.
It may have changed.
Yeah. And also I would add that as a part of the new education policy, there is a clear guideline hopefully coming up, which talks about integrating online learning into on-campus degrees. And again, the 20%. And it's being expanded to beyond just the SWAYAM and the NPTEL platforms to include other credible platforms as well. But again, I say this not as a regulatory expert. And it's a great question. I'd love to ask the panel members who are coming up right after this to be able to talk to us about it. Dr. Mantha is here. He's been the head of AICT, so we'd love to hear your thoughts as well on this.
Great. And on the completion rates, you know, it's interesting. We offer our partners courses for free. Anyone in the world can watch the videos. They don't take the assessments. They don't get a certificate. We find completion rates among those free users without a credential to be pretty low, typically 10 to 15%, depending on where you're in the country. At the other end of the spectrum, with degree courses, and University of Illinois, wherever Arshad is, we've been offering with University of Illinois, well, the Coursera platform has been used to deliver an MBA and a master's in accounting and a master's in computer science. You find retention rates above 90%, which is kind of surprising. You think, well, wait, I thought that online learning had low completion rates. It's not about online learning. It's about why is a learner coming to learn. If they just want to learn a skill here or a little concept here, like YouTube, you'll come in, you'll watch the pieces that are relevant, you'll say, I got what I needed. But many people are going for the credential, something that proves that they learned certain skills. So where you have a credential, completion rates go up. Where the credential value is higher, completion rates are even higher. We find completion rates among free learners to be 10, 15%, among paid learners about 50%, among learners in Coursera for Business, where it's in a business context where the implication is, hey, I need to be getting this for my job, it's about 60%, and for degrees, it's often over 90%. So it really kind of depends on what the learner's looking for.
Yeah, I'll just answer your third question very quickly, and I'll come here and then I'll come to you, sir. Just give me a moment, I'll come to you. So the third question, which is how can we work with you together? Firstly, I love your question. And secondly, the answer is very simple. Let's talk. I think that's the answer. Like I said earlier, some of the universities have started partnering with Coursera already as a part of Coursera for Campus, both to be able to bring our content to your students and also talk about private authoring where your faculty can even author content on our platform, which is something that we're launching today. We'd love to have that conversation. So we can.
Four universities giving degrees as part of Coursera?
Yeah, Arshad's going to, he could talk about, we have four.
The four Indian partners.
Oh, Indian partners.
Not yet,
degrees.
not
No.
yet.
No.
Which is why I wanted to ask.
All right. Let me come to you. Yeah, please.
Hello. Hello.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is. Hello, my name is Raghav Gupta, and I am President and Vice Chancellor of IIHMR University in Jaipur. And we are also an affiliate and partner of Johns Hopkins, and I saw that it is one of your partners. So I'd like to know that if our students want to do the programs which are offered by the Johns Hopkins, so can we do that, and our students also need to pay any money on that? That is my question one. Second, as Jeff was sharing about a lot of demand for the mental health and well-being kind of a thing. And our university is one of the pioneers in that area. In fact, over 60% of our revenue comes from research, from global research from many parts of the world. And we are also the pioneers who have created a center for not only the physical and mental health, but also the spiritual health and the being transformation kind of courses. So if we would like to also offer some courses, which I'm sure you know, which can impact. So what is the process, how we can do that?
So let's answer the second part of the question first in terms of potentially authoring content on Coursera, and I can take the first question.
Great. So with respect to the authoring, currently the private course authoring is available as part of the platform for private audiences on your campus, alumni, incoming faculty, staff. With respect to putting content on the Coursera global catalog, that's something that requires, it's called the University Advisory Board. So we have a University Advisory Board of a bunch of partners, and they approve universities who come onto the Coursera platform to post their content in the public catalog. So on private course authoring, absolutely, that's a core part of this offering. On the public catalog, there would have to be a process that we go through, but we do try to find experts in certain domains that are in high demand and meet the market's need and the market demand for certain types of courses and certain types of expertise. So we could certainly talk about that.
Yeah, And on the first part of your question, so theoretically, we could launch for your students tomorrow. We can scale and launch very quickly. But essentially, what we would do is say, what do you want to achieve? Who are the students? What do they want to learn? And then how do we bring our catalog, the right content to your students? So that's the conversation that we can have together. And then we can figure out what's the right kind of way to do this.
Oh, by the way, but you asked also about Johns Hopkins in particular.
We run the Masters in Public Health program of Johns Hopkins in India.
Yeah, so I'll mention one very, I think, pioneering and innovative experiment, relationship that we helped set up. So 3 of our partners in Latin America, Tec de Monterrey, Universidad de los Andes, and Católica de Chile, they wanted to create a consortium among the 3 of them where they combined all of their courses and offered them jointly across all 3 campuses. They call it La Triada. Okay. We can totally see, and we're very excited about the opportunity of Coursera for Campus being a platform for collaboration across higher education, especially where there are pre-existing relationships between universities. We would love to facilitate the efficient dissemination collaboration across universities. And so there is a bit of a model for that already, and we can certainly talk. I was just actually talking to the provost at JHU a couple weeks ago. We'd be happy to talk about helping to facilitate collaborations like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're almost on time, but I think this is a good set of discussions. So it's okay if we overshoot by a few minutes. I'll come to you, sir, in the back. If you could keep your question brief, and we'll take that. And we'll take one more question. Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Gentlemen, I'll come to you next.
Good evening, everybody. I am Professor A.K. Bakshi. I'm Vice Chancellor of PDM University in Haryana. And I've been basically a professor of chemistry in Delhi University, holding a chair of chemistry. We have been developing e-content for various programs of the MHRD Government of India. For example, we have also developed MOOCs, which are uploaded on the SWAYAM portal. I'm also the chairman of ARPIT program in chemistry, which develops online refresher program for teachers of the country in chemistry. I just wanted to know that if we want to share our expertise in chemistry through Coursera, how is it possible?
Yeah, so we currently have a set of universities, the 170 that are content authoring partners, and they author content that's available to the broad sort of spectrum of global learners and business learners through Coursera for Business. With Coursera for Campus, it's private authoring. So in order for a university to make their content available to the full Coursera learner base, the 44 million learners and the 2,000 businesses, it's a process that we've just described, which is the institution would have to be designated a content partner on Coursera, and then that opens up those courses for the broader world, not just the private audience. So private audience, core part of the platform, authoring for the global population is a partnership process that we would talk about and go through.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll take one more question. I know a lot of the questions are absolutely fantastic, and I know the panel will also answer these questions, so we'll take your questions, sir, and then we'll end.
I am Professor Naseeb Singhil, Director Digital Learning Center of Maharshi Dayanand University, Rohtak. We are a NAAC accredited A+ grade university, and catering to approximate 4 lakh students of the state of Haryana. And as rightly pointed out by Professor Bakshi, that maybe you can say short-term courses, that particularly just like MOOCs on same platform. And we also have attempted as a university to create our own learning management system. But we are talking about this 2 years, 3 years, 4 years long programs. And we are also having a traditional learning mechanism. So, how to integrate this assessment of the students within along with our hybrid learning. That's maybe you are particularly talking about this, just like your NPTEL, some other platform. It's pretty good for short-term courses. But we are afraid that because since you have so many other collaborations with so many other universities, so you would have come across that how to address this issue. And second part, more particular learning analytics.
Yeah, okay, so I think the question is, how can we integrate assessments? Shweta, if you want to take that, and learning analytics, what do we have coming on that?
Right, so in terms of the assessment piece, I think there are 2 parts to it. One is the assessments that are already part of the MOOC course. Right, so learners go through, there are graded assessments that are part of it, Those are peer-reviewed in a lot of cases or machine-graded in a lot of cases, and that becomes one part of how the student is assessed on a certain course or a skill. Then there is the second part, which is if you want to be a lot more rigorous about how this is integrated within your university experience, you can author your own private assessments that can be only for your students. So essentially think of this as exams that you're creating. Instead of running them on campus, they're going to be run on platform. And because we've already had a lot of expertise in actually doing online exams, as we're already doing with our online degrees, we know how to do timed exams, we know how to do proctored exams, and a lot of plagiarism detection as part of the examination piece. So you can create your own private assessments and exams for your students that will give you the comfort of the high academic rigor as part of your experience. So take, for example, if you're running a semester-based system, then at the end of the semester, you can have a 3-hour exam that's been authored by your faculty, but it's actually provided on our platform. It's available only for 3 hours. And once the exam is done, your faculty actually gets the results, and they can grade that based on how their grading rubric is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the second piece was around analytics. I think there are a lot of analytics that we make available as part of Coursera for Campus. There are 2 parts to it. One is the broader MOOC-based analytics, which is, or if you use our courses as part of your on-campus experience, there are analytics that show you how many hours, how many lessons, how many completions, how much time they've taken. The whole skills development dashboard, which helps you understand really which skills learners are learning, how proficient they have gotten into those skills, and how quickly are they learning those skills. That's one big part of it. The other big piece is if you author your private courses, we have a full set of analytics that becomes available to the author. So for example, if your faculty authors a course, then we show module by module how learners are doing on each of those areas. So one of the examples that I showed was a course progress dashboard. There are many such things that are available to the faculty so that they can get the feedback to improve their courses as they go along and the course becomes more mature for the university.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Shwetab. Congratulations to everybody on the launch of Coursera for Campus. We'll get the chairs on the stage for the next panel. I'm going to invite the moderator for the next panel, Rupal, to please come up. And I'll introduce the panel members as well as we get the chairs up, so that if you could all please join us on stage. So Rupal is going to moderate this panel. She's a manager with our university partnerships based out of our headquarters in Mountain View. And I'm going to invite Matthew Raskoff, Associate Vice Provost, Digital Education at Duke University. Rupal, how do you want the panel to be seated? Should we kind of go from left to right?
Sure, yeah. Left to right? Yeah.
Can we flip to the next slide, please? Yeah, perfect. Sorry, can I ask you guys to flip? Apologies. Matthew, yeah, all right. And if I can invite Arshad. Arshad is Assistant Dean at Geese College of Business, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Please join me in welcoming both our panel members. Next, I'd like to invite Ravi. Ravi is Managing Director and CEO of Manipal Global Education Services, one of our founding members of Coursera for Campus. Dr. S.S. Mantha, Chancellor of KL University, please join us. And Andrew Kamisarov, R&D Director of University 2035 from Russia, please. Over to you, Rupal.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the global launch of Coursera for Campus. Now that Raghav, Jeff, and Shwetab have talked a little bit about the vision and the product, let's actually spend some time hearing from our leading lights, the institution partners, on what exactly are we doing on Coursera for Campus. You know, when you walk into the Coursera offices in California, there's a similar blue wall, and the words that are written on the wall are as follows. We envision a world where everyone, anywhere, can transform their lives by accessing the world's best learning experiences. So with that in mind, it's an honor to really hear directly from our partners what are the transformative experiences they're creating on campus and beyond. Starting with Matthew at Duke, Duke being one of our
That was
first.
so cool, man. Hindi, like fluent Hindi.
Duke being one of our first Coursera for Campus partners, we'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey. Tell us about some of your highlights.
Sure. Thank you, Rupal, and thank you for being here today. This is incredible turnout for this event. Thank you all for coming today. This is incredible turnout, and there's wonderful energy in the room, which I'm a little bit jet lagged, but your energy is helping to revive me, so I appreciate the good questions and the interest in this topic. So my name is Matthew Raskoff. I work at Duke University, and I lead a team called Duke Learning Innovation. And our team's mission is actually not that different from Coursera's mission. Our mission is to help our own students learn more and to help more people to learn from Duke. And we have this kind of dual-sided mission, and what we do is invest in the synergies between learning for the wider world online and learning, enhancing learning on campus through technology and through reimagining the way technology and people interact. And so, you know, Coursera for Campus, I think, flowed naturally from a few different sources. And one of them was our mission, and this was a clear opportunity to both help the world through these open courses on the Coursera public platform and help our own students, and to think about those as kind of two different applications of the same set of learning challenges, that our own students need the technical skills that workers need, that employees need, that governments need, that it's actually a broad corpus of kind of whole catalog education that everybody needs in a very holistic way, and that we shouldn't think about learners versus students or all the ways that we kind of slice and dice our audiences. In fact, it's really one challenge. And the second cause for us was a kind of tech strategy insight, which was that in online courses, there are economies of scale and network effects that you just don't see in the rest of education. And that means these like unusual opportunities to do things that were not possible before. Things like turning on access to all of our 16,000 students with the click of a button, and suddenly our whole catalog becomes available to them. And at the same time, turning on access to our catalog to all of the Coursera 44 million learner audience, of whom 6 million have taken a course from Duke University. That's pretty extraordinary and unprecedented. You know, even in the 100-year history of Duke University, we've never approached anything like serving 6 million learners, and we never will probably in the on-campus part of what we do. But online, that's possible. And there's, of course, you know, economies of scale and network effects in the learning analytics that Shwetab was talking about. That the more people who go through an online course, the better that course gets. The more likely you are to identify problems in the course. The more insight you get into how people, you know, learn and don't learn in that course. And so in some ways, online courses can be the very best courses that we offer through those network effects. So that's kind of the tech component of this. And then the third, and what I would say proximal cause, was, you know, this new product that Coursera was launching. It was originally called Coursera for Organizations. Now it's Coursera for Business. And we were approached by our colleagues, you know, at Coursera, and what they said was, we want to make all this learning content that we've developed with you for the kind of consumer market available to large corporations that realize they need to reskill their workers. And we said, fine, that sounds good, but we're also a learning organization, and at the same time that we license our courses to big companies like IBM and Google and, you know, the very largest corporations in the world that have this need for growing their skills, we want to do the same thing for our own community. And we kind of paired our joining the Coursera for Business, Coursera for Governments service with making Coursera for Campus and kind of innovating that for our own community. So those are kind of the three causes and the three kind of like, you know, fundamental and proximal causes that brought us to the moment of Coursera for Campus, which is now nearly 2 years ago. And it's very exciting to see, you know, today this is now becoming a product and it's launching in India and worldwide.
Thanks, Matthew. And then going from there and taking your journey and 6 million learners. And as we're talking about going to scale here in India and kind of reading the emotion and questions in the room, let's bring it to you, Dr. Mantha. You've had an incredibly deep set of experiences in higher ed in India. You were the chairperson of AICTE as well as leading various universities, and now you're at KL. So you've talked often about how regulators as well as institutions need to come together to reimagine and reinvent the higher ed paradigm based on how industries are changing. So say a little bit about that. Looking back at your career, have there been any changes?
First of all, thank you for inviting me here. Yeah, like every aspect of life, education also has been changing. And most important changes have been happening within the teaching learning processes that are employed within the universities. This country has a very large higher education system. To be very precise on that, we have almost 1 million graduates passing out every year in all the technical programs. And so obviously there could be 3 categories, some of the very best. Then there are institutions which can make the grade and some which will need a lot of improvement to happen. Now having said that, most of the problems arise from the competency-based skills. And there are a lot of teaching, learning that happens. People are experimenting with different ideas and different pedagogies and so on. But there are still those gaps that happen, which essentially are in the skill, competency-based skill areas. And one of the features of Coursera-like platforms is really the credit-based credentialing that happens, which helps the which helps in creating a certain benchmark in the quality of the content. Now within, as a regulator, who had been a regulator, I would say that there has been nothing that prevents a university in India or an institution, or autonomous, or whatever be the structure of the institution. There is nothing that prevents them from experimenting with online education of whatever way they would probably look at. What I am saying is that one needs to make a difference between giving online degrees, online diplomas, and then making difference of online courses and building them seamlessly into the course structure. Nobody stops that from happening. So within the university which I represent now, we are experimenting with seamlessly building in certain courses within different disciplines as a part of the coursework. So it does 2 things. First of all, it helps the students to get across the best of the content from best of the people, created from coming out from some of the good universities and so on. And at the same time, it also helps the others to really look at the best practices and thereby make those changes that are required. So that no regulator would probably stop in the current scene, whether the online regulations or whatever, they are all evolving at this point of time. I know for sure there has been an online regulation that has been published, but that's more on the side of giving degrees in online through an online mode or giving a diploma in online mode. So the best part of such programs is to really look at what the other side of the world is doing in when you look at the university, one represents as one part of the world. So it's very necessary that the best practices are brought into the system, and that's where this kind of platforms, they make a difference. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And what I'm hearing from you is that one should separate degrees and online, but seamlessly including courses and rooting ourselves in the value of skill gaps and what needs to be filled, which is a great segue for Arshad. Arshad, I know that as an original land-grant university at Illinois, the idea of Coursera for Campus for you is very rooted in the idea of access and development. So say a little bit more.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you for this opportunity to speak in this forum with many of the colleagues here with similar institutions. University of Illinois and Gies College of Business, we've been in existence for about 150 years, 200 years respectively. The idea and notion of land-grant public institution is to create access to high-quality education for the masses in an affordable setting. And so to take a page from Matthew earlier, and I'm going to coin the acronym in our case, is to meet that challenge is how do we ace this challenge in a way? And that starts with access, number one. So for us, how do we create this digital ecosystem or a digital gateway or a digital backbone where we can accommodate talent anywhere, anywhere across the world in an affordable setting? And so that's where it starts, number one. How do we then use this digital platform to collaborate internally within the campus? We have 16 colleges across the campus, various pockets of expertise, whether it's engineering, computer science, College of Media, business, where I am from, College of Medicine, and so on and so forth. So that's the another piece. And the last piece is around engagement. How do you create an ecosystem for engagement? Engagement for students, no matter whether they are online students. Now, at least at the college, Gies College of Business, we have about 3,000 online students participating in degrees as well as non-degree credentials. So how do you engage students? How do you engage faculty with those students? How do you engage our alumni? And then as the next phase, how do you engage potential partners, whether these partners are enterprises or potential partners that are sitting in the audience here in that collaboration, right? So how do you take probably content and curriculum that's exposed in a local environment that people know best where that is, and then plug that sort of learner into a global sort of student. And that's where the global sort of workforce needs to be developed, particularly in a case in India for sure, especially at institutions like ours as well.
So great points, and we'll come back to faculty in just about a minute. But I wanted to actually reach out to Andrew and ask you two questions. Arshad talked about these multidisciplinary engages and collaborations towards the point of building global learning skills. Two questions for you. Question one, tell us what is University 2035? And in a conversation outside, you mentioned to me it's a university with an expiration date. Tell us what needs to happen for a university to expire.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me all the way from chilly Moscow to this wonderful sunny Delhi place. Took me just a 6-hour flight, but it's totally worth it. Well, University 2035 is an interesting type of organization, hence the name. 2035 is the year. It is the expiration date. So in his visionary book, Nassim Taleb, who is one of the best-selling authors of the world, the book was called Anti-Fragile. He said that it would have been great if a university, if a given university, would have had an expiration date, so they would also have KPIs, they would also have a mission, and we would see whether or not this particular mission would have been fulfilled up to this particular date. So our mission is this: up to 2035, we are supposed to introduce a fully automatic, digital, data-driven educational system throughout the universities of Russia. Russia is a pretty extensive country, as you might know. We have almost the same number of universities as in India, and we also do have about 1 million graduates per year. So we are very, very similar. Well, we're about 5 times more geographically dispersed, you might say. So the question really is, how can this whole educational system be controlled? How can the learning quality be assessed? How can we have the similar access to high-level education, very similar to what Coursera stands for? How can we provide the lifelong learning principles, and especially for those people who are not just students, who are not just starting their path, their career, but who are finding themselves outdated in the market, who find themselves lost and confused because their specific jobs are not called for anymore. So we need to reintroduce them. For example, we can take accountants who are used to bookkeeping in just paper form. We can take them and reintroduce them to the market as junior data analysts, helping teach the neural networks. Because the neural networks, as you all know, and the AI in general, it takes staggering amounts of data to be taught. And the AI doesn't work without us teaching it. Right now is a wonderful time, which is called a human-machine pedagogy, when humans are teaching artificial intelligence for artificial intelligence to be able to teach humans. And this is exactly what University 2035 stands for. So we are introducing artificial intelligence algorithms into all of education, starting with diagnostics. We need to know who these people are, what their character qualities are, how can we teach them as effective as possible, how we give them as much as possible. Then we collect digital footprint from their everyday learning patterns, and from this digital footprint we can know how to adapt their individual learning curve, individual trajectories, and make it still more effective. And you know how effective this can be measured these days. Everybody's saying time is money, and this is how we measure it. The faster we can create this transfer from a state of where we are now to a state of specific activity, a specific work, the faster we can reintroduce a person into this new digital-driven market, the more effective our education is. So this is what we basically stand for, but not only in Russia, also worldwide, hopefully soon in India.
Wonderful. That sounds like a lot to accomplish, and I wonder when you would accomplish all of that. Which brings us to Ravi. Ravi, you were the earliest, or you are the earliest adopter of Coursera for Campus. Manipal has been leveraging the platform for about 2 years, 20,000 plus students. So tell us more about where this journey has brought you. Are you where Andrew is envisioning 2035 to be?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and I think thanks for the opportunity. Congratulations, Coursera, for C4C. Did I get the acronym right? Coursera for Campus. So congratulations. I think this journey actually began 2 years, while you know of 2 years, it actually began much before that. So when we were drawing out the strategy for the universities for the next 5, 10, 15 years, and we've done a study saying that, look, how is the student of the future going to look like? And one of the things that we realized was, it's not about somebody coming into a campus for 4 years, or maybe +2 for post-graduation, and going out. I think we understood that, look, what we are actually going to deal with is going to be what we call as the lifelong continued learning, right? So we realized that, look, the faster we inculcate the habit of self-learning in the students, the faster we kind of tell the students that, look, you guys are going to be accountable, not just for these 4 years or whatever, but right through your careers, right through your growth and career development. You're going to be responsible and accountable for yourself, nobody else. And if there are L&D people in the room, please pardon me saying so, the L&D department or the HR department is not going to be responsible for your career growth anymore. And if some of these things have to happen, we realize that, look, it is very, very important for the students to be, the habit of understanding, doing self-learning, going out there and all of that. And that was around the time that MOOCs was coming up and Coursera was just about beginning. They had some other things going, but not the campus part of it. The other thing that really hit us was, look, end of the day, a student, gone are the days when I'm an electronics engineer by profession, but gone are the days when I can just do 4 years of electronics engineering and come out. I definitely want to possibly pick up a German language or a French language. I definitely may want to pick up how to play the guitar. I definitely want to possibly, and I've done that course myself. If some of you, how do you learn? So for example, when I took the Coursera course on how do you learn, I realized that maybe I've gone through all my 30 years plus, 40 years plus, without really understanding how to learn and how to, make an impact. So we also wanted our students to be well-rounded, holistic, well-developed, sure of themselves, accountable for their growth, and at the same time, also try and do their curriculum and the regular work. And while we were doing all of this, we said that, look, we were very clear that over the next 5, 10, 15 years, UGC, AICTE would definitely come up with not just 20% of the curriculum being online blended. We clearly foresaw that that percentage is going to possibly go up. And I know that we have these teaching institutes and the research institutes coming up in the new UGC policy. And I think what we thought of 3-4 years back actually is bearing fruit. So in a sense, we were already thinking in terms of identifying a partner to work with in the MOOC space. And Coursera, when they came to us, the model was slightly different. It was a block model where I know both Raghav and Jeff and Raghav, I think both of you were not there in Coursera at that point in time. But what then happened was we realized that Coursera wanted to go the retail way, students, direct to students, and we said, okay, fine, can we create an ecosystem? And the moment the student walks in on his first day, can we give him a Coursera ID and tell him that, look, you can do whatever you want, certifications you pay for, but of course, you can play around with it. And I'm happy to say that over the 2 years that we've been with Coursera, the enrollments have doubled, the completion of courses have actually gone up. The faculty have also benefited, and I'm sure they'll benefit more once C4C becomes a reality. But they've also benefited in the sense that they really understood how to leverage Coursera. And some of the specializations, some of the lower credits, maybe a credit out of 3, they still get it done through specialized programs and all of that. I think, so it's been a great experience, and I'm sure that, and all of this, mind you, when we started off 2 years back, and maybe we'll do that for a couple of more years, we are not charging the student. It's as a vision, as a strategy, it is the university that is actually paying for the courses, and all of you know, in a lighter vein, that Coursera doesn't come cheap. So, so we are investing. For us, it's an investment in students, and we've also been talking to Coursera on the possibility of extending this to the alumni, because I think it's a great platform. And in another forum that Jeff and I were in the morning, we talked about leverage. We said that, look, if there's something good going, can we leverage that? Can we build on that? And can we make it available to the larger cross-section? And I'm happy to say that this would be a great tool to actually engage the alumni with, mentor them, get them back to self-learning ways, and what better way than to actually give them so many courses and so many. There's already 44 million people enrolled, so it's a proven platform and a proven course. So I think it's a great partnership, and I see this going forward, and I'm sure that you will have a great time when you start this program. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ravi. On the perspective of investing in students, I wanted to bring it back to you, Matthew. I know in the last 2 years, Duke has uncovered quite a few learnings and models of the way Coursera for Duke has been working. So share a little bit about some avenues that you've been seeing.
So let me first say what I thought we were going to do with it, and then I'll say what actually became of it, because I think it's different in interesting ways, and speaks to the possibilities, the creative possibilities of open platforms like this that just become enablers of the creative energy of faculty. So what we thought was what I call the 4 C's, which is number 1, co-curricular learning, meaning learning in between the curriculum for credit assigned by faculty in courses and semesters and the extracurricular space of athletics and student activities. The co-curriculum is kind of that in-between space where students are motivated to learn intrinsically. They're not graded. They're doing it for building up what we call these complementary skills. That's the second C. Complementary meaning if you're a liberal arts student, you need data skills and programming skills to get a job. And if you're a technical student in engineering, you need collaborative skills and writing skills and soft skills and metacognitive skills and the well-being skills. And everybody is missing some piece of that. And it's our job as an educational institution to think about you as a whole learner. And this is an enabler of allowing students to take some intellectual risks outside their core field, outside their majors, and build up that complementary skill set. Number 3 is credentials. So we didn't just want to provide open courses that you can get on Coursera, not just the videos, but also the assessment and the credential that comes with it. That's where the labor market value and the payoff comes. And so you finish a program and you get a credential from Coursera with Duke, and you also have your university credential, and that makes you more marketable. That was our thesis. And the last is community. And the idea there was that we were opening this learning experience up not just to our own students, but also to faculty and staff, and then alumni in a later phase. And it's an enabler of strengthening connections within our own student and campus community and lifelong connections with alumni. And I think, with more global institutions joining Coursera for Campus, there's also this cross-cultural opportunity for building, community worldwide. So those were sort of our premises. What we saw, though, which is very exciting, is that faculty kind of took this platform as an opportunity to innovate themselves. So Rupal, I mentioned a faculty member who runs a research lab called the Puppy Kindergarten that uses puppy neuroscience, dog neuroscience to understand how our own human brains work. And he runs an undergraduate research program for students, and he used his dog cognition course that he built on Coursera as a requirement for applying to be an undergraduate researcher in his lab. He wanted to make sure the students had the skills and showed up for the job ready to perform. And also he wanted to make sure they had the commitment. So were you able to finish the course? That course actually ended up having some of the highest completion rates we had because the students were very motivated by the job that came at the end of it, and they had to do that course in order to prove that they were ready for the job. We had faculty create what we call Level Up, which is a mini course that students take before they show up for an on-campus credit-bearing course. And in the Level Up, they meet the prerequisites for the course, they get ready for the course, they build up their knowledge and skills so that they're ready to perform on day one on par with their classmates who may come from very different backgrounds. So it's a tool for managing and differentiating instruction across a very diverse and sometimes very large classroom. And the Level Up assured the faculty that the students were ready for that advanced material. And what we found in surveys of students and faculty was that the Level Up really did give students more confidence that they would be able to perform well in the class, and it gave the faculty more confidence to do more advanced topics in the formal class because they knew the students had met the prerequisites effectively. So, there's what we thought, and then there's what's become of it, and to me, that's part of the excitement of, advancing the frontiers of technology, that you build this kind of canvas for creative colleagues to work on and to paint on. And I think we've only begun to see the possibilities of all the hybrid models of technology and people working together to help people learn.
Wonderful. Well, I have a red screen flashing at me that says time's up. Before we open for questions, Matthew said it's about what we thought, what's become, but then let's think about what's to come. So in just one line, if each one of you could answer, what could be a vision for Coursera for Campus? What's to come? What would that be? Just one line. Let's start from Andrew.
Okay, I'd say that the next step or the vision for Coursera for Campus would be an ecosystem, like a gentleman mentioned, an ecosystem based on individual learning curve connected into a complex network of competency stacks, because we don't have any professions anymore. We have specific competency stacks and we have specific requirements. So I'd say this kind of an ecosystem where every learner has an individual learning path that brings him to a specific competency stack, to a specific position in a specific company, that's the vision.
I believe a lot of discussion has been happening on the employability skills. So I would like to see the Coursera, the courses that are integrated into the curriculum actually do that. I mean, there are subject-based skills, there are employability skills, and therefore it's very necessary that we actually connect the employment to what we learn. Is that possible? Is something that Coursera must look at?
I've written down something.
Sure.
I anticipated this question, I think. So for me, Coursera for Campus needs to blend and become an integral part of the university learning ecosystem with a very clear outcome impact for existing students, faculty, and alumni. So I think the key word here is the ability to blend with the university ecosystem.
So I don't have any written notes. But I'll stick to the ecosystem for engagement. I think having a digital sort of infrastructure and a gateway opens up access in many ways that we have perhaps not thought of or opened our minds to. And so that is the first step I would engage people in doing so. And the second would be let those connections happen between the students, between the faculty, your own employees, your staff, alumni, and collaborative partners, whether they are institutions or corporate partners, and let those foster and that be the ecosystem of engagement that we think of a digital backbone such as the Coursera for Campus.
I think I've already.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Maybe we spend 10 minutes on questions, if there are any. 5 minutes on questions, sorry.
I'm Prem Pillai. I'm from Mumbai. We represent a group of 48 institutions from Mumbai. Because of the traditional way our regulators have operated, institutions like ours have invested heavily in our sort of physical infrastructure, land, building, classrooms, seminar halls, laboratories, etc. So how do you envision sort of us or as institutions in India like utilize these resources that we've already developed? Or are there innovative ways that your institutions have used your existing physical infrastructure to augment the Coursera courses?
Arshad, I feel like you might have examples.
So, I mean, maybe to not directly answer your question exactly about how to utilize physical infrastructure for on-campus, but think of it in terms of extending your reach that goes just beyond the campus. Campus infrastructure has limitations. We can accommodate in our classrooms maybe 60 students or in large lecture halls, hundreds of students. But at the end of the day, we are investing in infrastructure or in people for the sole goal of broader, larger impact that we can have at a large scale. And that's where how we would perhaps think of it in that sense, that even if we were to invest in our infrastructure that is physical, in residence, in class, how does it impact our student learner, whether they are on campus or even online? To the point of, and to echo Matthew's point of view, the faculty that get involved in online teaching in particular, then they bring it back to the classroom in various ways, whether that mode could be calling, flipped classroom, or in our case, in a specific example, we literally have on-campus MBA students who partake in live engagement and live sessions with our students who are in our online MBA, the IMBA program. And then he goes and kicks it off by directly physically engaging with them and ends it with a debrief with them. So that's another way that students on campus are being integrated with learners online, while the faculty also blend their teaching between online and in residence.
Maybe one more question. Sure.
I mean, just a query. I mean, when you are referring to this Coursera, at one point of time, your this Blackboard LMS, similarly our Moodle LMS, same, I mean, because just getting collaborated with the several universities, point is, I mean, it's a very confusing status. I mean, as an institution, I mean, here in India, that just like for the last 2-3 years, we have been working on to Moodle, again on our this on-stream platform. And again, if you're looking into the popularity of this Blackboard, I mean, for the learner and for the faculty, to what extent, if you're referring to this Coursera, how you got it compared, and it appeared to be more robust in comparison to this? Just for learner's viewpoint, for the faculty, learning analytics, I just also raised another question prior to that. So I just want, just that clarification from that end. Thank you.
So correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing from you is Coursera as a platform comparable and better than the platforms, the LMS platforms that you just mentioned? Well, Shwetab is the right person to answer that, but I would say that Coursera is a platform with content for learners to learn. We have 44 million plus learners learning. So I wonder if the comparables there are similar and different.
I think if your question was correct, if there are so many different digital platforms, is there sort of confusion on the learner side? Is that and the faculty, how they interact with different platforms? So, I mean, think of on your phone, you run multiple apps in a way. So think of how institutions can leverage content engagement across platforms. And the notion that Shwetab mentioned earlier, integrating through APIs, your residential content or your own LMS learner content into other platforms. So at the end of the day, I don't think there is like a single technology that is going to run everything. It's about plug and play mechanism. So if we are doing live sessions, we use Zoom as a platform, but how does that get integrated into Coursera is the question. So I think as a platform, we have certainly felt that Coursera has done a phenomenal job in accommodating and integrating these different technologies for the learner. And so that's how I view it.
Any success story on part of Duke or other partners regarding our digital assessment and evaluation part? If you could let us know.
Sure. Well, I just got the let's complete this signal, but I'm sure that our partners are here to offer more examples and perspectives with you. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Okay, thank you, Rupal. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're going to take a break. We are running just a little bit over, but we'll take a 10-minute break. I'd request you all to be back by 6:15. A good way to do this is take a bio break if you'd like to get a cup of tea, coffee.
And that is where in which we really wanted to enable a multidisciplinary learning.
Folks in the back, may I request you to please take your seats? We'll get restarted. So we'll move to the second panel of the evening. I'd like to invite the panel members up on stage. So to get us started, I'd like to invite Dr. Rajan Saxena, Vice Chancellor of NMIMS, to please join us. Dr. Saxena, if you could take a seat here, please. Love for all of you to welcome him with a round of applause. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Rupa Manjari Ghosh, Vice Chancellor of Shiv Nadar University, to join us. Sharad Mehra, Chairman of UPES and Pearl Academy. Thank you, Sharad. And Rupesh Tripathi, Head of People at KPMG Global Services. Thank you everyone for joining us. Our panel is titled Preparing Students in India for Jobs of Today and Tomorrow. And the way I'd like to run this is not to spend too much time setting context, because we've heard from the audience, how they're approaching education, getting students ready for jobs of the future, and credentials and online learning. I'd love to ask all of you one or two sets of questions and get your perspectives. Would request you to keep it short, because I'd also like to open it up to the audience to have discussion towards the end of the panel as well. Dr. Saxena, if I can start with you, and my colleagues who were at NMIMS a few days back, were telling me that when we launched the Coursera program, You spoke about a world of learning and how rapid changes in technology are going to take learning beyond the four walls of the campus. NMIMS is, of course, one of the early adopters of Coursera for Campus. So please share with us some of your vision and your thoughts around the developments here.
Thank you, Raghav. Thank you, Raghav. Well, at NMIMS, this whole experience or this whole experiment began almost about a couple of years back. In fact, almost about 5 years back when we started looking at what is it that we should be doing in our learning environment. What is it that we can really do something? In addition to whatever we were doing in our classroom or in our non-classroom kind of an experiences that we were giving to the students. And we realized that the pace at which the technology was changing and at the same time the workplace was changing, no faculty member within the institution would be able to ever keep up with that kind of a pace. And therefore, from that kind of a perspective, we took a decision, consciously we took a decision almost about 5 years ago to integrate online learning modules with our programs itself. For almost about last 1 year, the discussion had become far more intensive at the campus. And it was veering around to the fact that the learner profile was rapidly changing. Our faculty was far removed from what was happening with the learner. And therefore, we needed to really reorient the faculty. At the same time, the learner was telling us that we want to have learning anywhere and at any time itself. And that's where we said that we need to be doing something in that area. Now, it is from that perspective that we looked at our engineering education to begin with. And there, we had identified a couple of courses which were the path-breaking kind of courses. Whether this was in the area of artificial intelligence, AI, IoT, or for that matter, machine learning, analytics, or robotics, or cybersecurity and forensics itself. Skills in these subdomains would be essential for all streams of engineering. So we didn't want to restrict it only to computer science, so we said we need to really offer it to all domains. So as a result of which, we just opened it up to the student body itself. Our experience was that, well, a large number of students, we never anticipated such a large kind of a response from the student community. But in a very short period of time, we were able to get almost about 1,600 students up registered for these courses. Now, what is it that has got them there? One of the important things had been that we said that the proposition was that if the student, we looked at the courses of Coursera, we mapped them up with our own courses from a credit point of view. And from that kind of a perspective, what we realized was that about 15 to 17 courses that the faculty had curated, resulting in about 20 to 22 credits were there that we were getting from Coursera. Now, the total number of credits in the BTech program, as many of you would know, is about 160 credits, and about 45 courses are there. So of this, 20 credits were coming over from Coursera. Now, these were, in 25 specified areas that we had identified. These are domain and life skill areas itself. So we said that those who complete these courses, along with our own kind of courses, and get a CGPA of 3.0 on a 4.0, are going to get a BTech honors degree from NMIMS. Now, this was a very strong kind of a proposition to us, to many of the students. And those who were not able to get 3.0, we said, well, you could get a minor in the subject that you were doing. Now, this, we feel, will make these students far more industry ready, far more relevant to the needs of the industry. And once this whole experiment succeeds, we intend to really take it forward to other domains itself.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure there are probably going to be some questions about how you're thinking BTech and BTech honors, just around the nature of how you're planning that. Dr. Ghosh, I'd like to come to you next. And all of us know Shiv Nadar University is a young university. You've also recently been awarded the Institute of Eminence. So I'd like to ask you a question with two parts. As an Institute of Eminence, what changes? And as a Coursera for Campus partner, what are your expectations? What are your objectives for this program?
Thank you very much. I got a viral attack and my voice was really bad, but I'll just still try. It's not easy being a young university. We are 8-year-old. 2011 we started. Let me say that being young, we had the advantage of the wisdom of everybody else. So when we built our curriculum, the curriculum content and the mode of delivery was pretty much tuned to the session topic. And so whether institution of eminence or not, it was our mandate to be eminent. It may not be in the global ranking way, the way it is now being mandated, but pretty much context specific at the same time, so global as well as local. So this was already there, and what we are struggling with, we are a fully multidisciplinary research-focused university. So we have engineering, very good students there on the graduate level, very powerful science school. I'm a physicist myself. Actually, I started that school myself. A School of Social Sciences and Humanities, a School of Management and Entrepreneurship, and then a School for Lifelong Learning. It became very, very clear that if you are coming, if a student is coming, we are learner-centric, everything we do is for our students. So if they're actually taking admission to Shiv Nada University, we are not for outsourcing our responsibility. So this is where the conflict starts in all university systems. Independent learning by individual students is very different. When you want to make it part of your system, there's a lot of work to be done. And we are fortunate to actually have examples from other universities to look at, and we contextualize that. So what the Institution of Eminence hopefully would allow the private sector universities is freedom from regulations. As has been already made very clear, when I take a Coursera course and I integrate in my curriculum, I actually don't need any regulation. But if I use your certification and I want to use it for that platform, then I actually need regulatory clearance, which I hope to earn by being independent because of the eminent status. So that's a very big plus point. I took to Coursera as a means for faculty development. Very straight, that's the first thing. We are very slow in hiring regular faculty because hiring and firing doesn't quite work in India. So when you hire, it's almost for life, so you are extremely careful. When you don't find the right kind of faculty, so the research focus comes into being. Coursera can help me in teaching. For research, I need physical faculty members to carry out the kind of work we wish to do for most of it, because even if you are born digital, back end, somebody has to provide you something to eat. So energy, materials, food, clean air, clean water, all of these are still challenging problems and will stay so in a sustainable way. So research will go on, that's independent of it, but we did feel that the star faculty members we have, you said half-life of 5 years, I see it actually even shorter than that sometimes. Things are getting outdated, so Coursera was a great platform, foremost for our faculty to update their knowledge. And so we are using a blended form, and we are very excited about this partnership. In a blended form, where we are not outsourcing to Coursera, our faculty would be in charge, but that blending to suit the purpose of each student using technology to monitor the pace of learning and to suit it. That's where I think the win-win situation is. That's what you bring in, and we provide excellent faculty to actually adapt to this. And this has to be done really fast in a real-time way. So I'm looking forward to it. We just started, as you know, so I don't have results to show, but the planning has been done very, very rigorously. And so the first is independent learning, maybe in specializations where we miss out. My major emphasis is faculty development. So data science, data is the new English. You're a sociologist. We have great sociologists. I mean, I'm forcing them to go through the data science courses, and it's good fun. Once they know, they can reject it. But if you do not know and then you reject it, that's a crime. So I think that's the faculty development. Third, I'm looking at what you just talked about, may not be just as a private way of developing online capability for developing our own courses online, but it would go for public maybe eventually. So, lack of time, so we'll talk later.
No, thank you for sharing that. Sharad, I'd like to come to you next. Both of your institutions, and I don't know if you know this yourself, have a personal connection to me. UPES is in Dehradun, which is my hometown. I grew up in Dehradun. And I went and studied at NIFT, and we used to compete with Pearl, and so you represent Pearl. I have two of my teachers in the audience, Dr. Sanjay Gupta and Dr. Prabir Jana, who are here, and also Dr. Parag Devan, who's the founding Vice Chancellor of UPES. So I'd love to ask you two questions. One, I know UPES is an early adopter of online learning technology. You started with IBM programs, and you've in general been a very technology-driven university. So talk to us about that. What has your experience been? And second, if I'm correct, Pearl Academy is the first fashion design school to adopt the Coursera for Campus platform. What are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, thank you, Raghav. And I think the only reason Raghav allowed me to be on this panel was all the connect that he was mentioning. And I also promised to say some good things about him in front of his boss. So Raghav is great. And he's the reason we signed Coursera. Coming to your questions, look, I think UPS has always been very forward-looking, and we, as you said, sir, kind of really realize that the needs of the learners have changed. So therefore, we need to really adapt with time and make online learning as an integral part of our university's strategy. And we started about 5 years back. And what we really realized very early on, that was really more of a change management initiative than anything else. Because a couple of things that came up very early on was the view of the faculty. So there was one bunch which felt that this is something which is going to take our jobs away and really take the personal connect in teaching. The second view was, the more interesting view was that online teaching and learning is great. It's really meant for all the disciplines but mine. So we could do in engineering, but we can't do it in business. We could do in business, but we could not do in design. So I think that's how we really started this. So a lot of work actually went on training the faculty. I think we had a first cohort of about 150 faculty that was trained on a certificate course in online teaching and learning. And they did the course online. So I think that was the first experience. And from there on, what we realized that again, this was really not about technology. Technology was just a medium to impart that. It was more about a high-quality teaching and learning experience that can be delivered across scale and consistency in all our classrooms. And I think that really was the way we looked at technology. Today, a significant part of our student community is already online, and one of the things that I think you shared with us, that many of our alumni are actually part of the Coursera network, and they've actually added those credentials to their LinkedIn profile, which really goes on to say that they are always onto it. Now, in terms of your second question, that Pearl being a fashion and design institution, and where does kind of really Coursera fit into all of this? So at Pearl, we have a very fundamental belief that first, we are creating great human beings. Second, we are creating great professionals. And then we are creating good designers out of that. So I think where we were, I mean, it's a big self-assessment. We were good at giving the technical skills which made them better designers. But I think where they became better professionals, they became better human beings, is where I felt that Coursera can add a lot of value. You mentioned a list of companies, Jeff, in your presentation. There was Google on that. There was P&G on that. There was a lot of tech-driven companies there. All of the companies today come to Pearl to recruit designers, because that's the kind of a skill set that they are looking for. Therefore, it's imperative that for my students to learn technology, everybody needs to go through that artificial intelligence course that you have. There are very interesting courses on leadership. And there's one which also tells you how to make money. So I think, if we are really able to integrate that into our curriculum, we are actually achieving the 3 objectives that we have set for ourselves. Here at both Pearl and UPS, we have a very comprehensive teaching and learning system. And an integral part of that is what we call as beyond the curriculum. So these are the things that you need to learn, which may not be in your pharma council regulated curriculum or many of the other regulatory provisions that are there. But your students just needs to know that, because if they are not knowing about that, they are actually outdated before they are even going into the marketplace. So that's another reason. And the third is that while we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution, I think for us academics, we really need to talk about the fifth academic revolution, because that really has to precede that. Because if we are going to be meeting the needs of the future, and I think there is a lot of collective wisdom in the room, so exactly we know what the jobs of the future are going to be, what are we really doing about it? So if we are not really focusing on that, then it's the same bunch of students who will probably make sure that it may not be a university 2035, but it does have a expiry date, because universities may have expiry date, but learning does not have expiry date. So that to me is an extremely important thing. And I think perhaps designers, the way they look at the world is very different from probably rest of the community does. It has taken me 8 years to realize that. And I think that if we are able to give them the right skill on technology, give them the right inputs around social innovation, they are the ones who can actually make a sustainable difference in the world. Otherwise, before the university perishes, even the world may perish. So that to me is the logic behind accepting C4C.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Rupesh, before I come to you, I just want to quickly just let the audience know that after your comments, I'd love to open it up to questions. So if you could just have mics available. I'm just conscious of time as well. And so you have a unique position this evening, right? You are the only jobs in everything that we are talking about. From a KPMG perspective, and between KPMG Global Services, KPMG India, you are 25,000 people in India alone. So what's your perspective in terms of, what firstly are you thinking about in terms of jobs of tomorrow? And second, as you look at universities and colleges in India, where do you see strengths and where do you think are biggest opportunities that you'd like universities to work on?
Sure, Raghav. So recognizing the fact that I'm really representing minority in this room today as an employer, to contextualize that question before I answer that, I'll just take maybe a 60 seconds or 2 minutes on what an ideal campus strategy is, right? For you, you only see us visiting your campus and hiring a bunch of people, and in a way reducing our recruitment cost or having a predictable turnaround time for hiring, right? But that really is the tip of the iceberg, right? Ideal campus strategy, that's something that even we follow, is where this group of people that we are hiring, the students that we are hiring from you, is really the future leadership pipeline for us. When we align our other talent mechanisms in the organization with this, the way we manage careers, the way we develop people, the way we assess them once they are with us, it leads to a scenario where we are going less and less out in the market for our lateral hires, but fulfilling more and more of them through this talent pipeline, which is coming internally, right? And that in turn has enormous amount, different benefits. So while our overall pyramid cost is low, we have higher engagement, we have lower attrition, we have people sticking with us because they see that growth in us, and hence there is this whole virtuous cycle of us wanting to do that again and again. Now, how does that relate to the question that you asked, right? More often than not, the whole conversation, comes down to what do I need to do for my student as a university so that they are successful in the first job that they are doing, or they are successful in the interview that they're going to, right? Corporates are now looking at how do I go and hire people who are not just with me for that first job, but are with me for the entire tenure of their career. And hence the whole conversation that we had earlier today around future readiness of people, and how are we teaching our students so that they are learning how to learn, right? So some of those skills become as important as what is required right when we are hiring people. And that's equally important, right? So when we are coming to you, let's say, and say that we want to hire cybersecurity guys, we would expect them to know that. We would expect them to have the best of the material that's available out there, across the universities, to have gone through that. So they are ready to come and be successful in that first job. But are we also imparting the skills like, and some of that we spoke about, design thinking, right? To your point, critical thinking, learning how to continue to learn, promoting growth mindset, promoting grit, promoting empathy. Everything that makes a human is what is said is the future of jobs. Most of the jobs that we saw earlier in the in Jeff's presentation today are going to go away if they don't have that human element to it, right? So that's where I think we need to focus on the complementary skills that was spoken about. Over and above what is required as a part of that curriculum, can we build some of these complementary skills in our students so that when they are going into corporate, they are actually ready to stay and be those future leaders. And that, I think, is where the gap is. The first part of the skills, right, the skills that we really need to impart for them to be successful immediately is easier. If I were to take an example, we go to campuses, we hire people, they go through a 4 weeks program where we train them, at the end of which they go and start performing. But the difficult is the other bit of it, which is the whole mindset piece, right? Now we did a small pilot just last 6 months. In fact, we hired for one of the businesses, and what we did this time was, before they were hitting us as the day of joining, we went back and gave them a curated list of courses, and few of them were actually from Coursera, saying, here are some of the courses, can you just go through those before you come in? And they were, again, largely functional, right? So there was stuff around auditing, there was stuff around accounting, there were things around Excel skills. And when they came in and they went through that 1 month course, the faculty is telling us that they are better. The gap is much smaller, right? So that's the immediate benefit. The second benefit that we derived was, because we were engaging with them for good 6-7 weeks before they even came in, we actually had a much lesser drop rate. Most of those folks actually came and joined us because we were already talking to them, right? And that, I think, is where the opportunity is. Rather than the universities just saying, here are additional courses that are now available to us because of the Coursera platform, go ahead and do it. It really opens up this whole partnership between corporates and campuses of saying that what is it that you need, and can we together either curate the courses or even create, right? The whole co-authoring. Why can't a co-authoring happen along with a corporate which I visit, which visit to your campuses, and really get them ready before they actually come and do their day one. So those are some of the thoughts, and happy to discuss more.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting. I know Jeff and Shweta earlier spoke about incoming students, and I think what you're talking about is incoming employees. Okay. And I think it's really interesting to kind of hear that. Dr. Saxena, do you have a 30-second comment on that before I open it up to questions from the audience?
No, I quite agree with what Rupesh was just mentioning. I think the biggest problem with many of us is that we look at industry only from a recruitment perspective, but not from the point of view of being a partner with us. And I think that's where the strength is really going to be. The second part of it is to look at it, the way we have looked at it, is to see the Coursera courses as not the be-all, but really something that was supplementing our learning process. So a lot we were doing in the area of design thinking, or a lot we were doing in the area of, let's say, developing the life skills, etc. But a very important part was, what is it that we can do in the area of disruptive technologies? That's where we felt the need. And I think that's a good point that Rupesh, you have made, of co-creating some of the core kind of courses. That, I think, is a great point.
Thank you. I'll open it up. Just a quick time check. I think we might be able to take 2-3 questions. Shivu, do you have a mic with you? Yeah, please, go ahead.
I'm Shiv Kumar. I head digital skilling at Mindtree. I have not a question, but a brainstorming kind of a thought for the universities. One thing that we see is that today's students, they have immense amount of high-level knowledge about many things because of the exposure that they have. But the rigor of application is not uniform, in any subject. So one of the problems that you always have is that we don't have enough time to do everything. But online learning, online courses such as this gives you the opportunity to implement the concept of flipped classroom, where students learn a course, the basics before even they come into the class. And the class can then become an opportunity for increased application-based learning, for which they're not getting time. So I'm quite confident of that because I meet a lot of students. So this brings me to the concept of a philosophy of incorporating or integrating online courses, virtual courses, into your curriculum. Unless a philosophy is developed by the universities, followed by methodology and so on and so forth, then I think it will be loosely coupled. There is an advantage in loosely coupling, or focused coupling, but there is a lot more that needs to be done as well.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I want to qualify that before I ask you to answer that. Mindtree runs a fantastic program on online learning. Earlier this year, in February, at the Coursera annual conference, amongst our 2,000 Coursera for Business partners, Mindtree won the award for the best online learning program. So I think it's amazing that you're here and that you have thoughts to share with us. Can I ask any of you to kind of take a brief answer to that, Dr. Ghosh?
Okay. Thank you. I have a question.
Sorry, hang on, please. Let me just get an answer.
So I think this point was actually known. Even before Coursera, we did try online courses that were free at that time. Even many of Coursera were free. But flipped classroom in the Indian context often doesn't work. I don't know whether you know that. It doesn't work. We tried it at the very beginning. Of course, we did not. Basically, students felt they were being cheated. All our work, you're dumping on them. And they would come unprepared to the class. So one day you say class dismissed. Second day you say class dismissed. If you don't study, if you don't look at the program, don't come to the class. It somehow did not quite work. The other problem that we find, we are a private university, even with Coursera, but we do a lot of public good. In Coursera, we absorb the cost. Students don't pay anything for that. But the point was that when they come for that, in the public good, you have many layers in India. Not everybody is at 21st century. I have 17th century people studying at SNU, along with 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. And you have to cater to all of them. So this is the advantage of Coursera, I see, is that it allows me to determine the pace and curate the content as we think. So therefore, the teacher still stays, the faculty members stay a crucial part of that moderation and being the guide by the side, literally. So I think this has been our experience. Flipped classroom needs a different kind of a mindset where people know why they're coming. And you thought if they pay for their courses, they would be more determined. It's not true yet in India. So it's a good thought, but it has to be taken in the context of what we are facing today.
Well, responding to what you had just mentioned, I think I quite agree with you when you talk about the application part. Because in the first place, the student isn't really coming prepared for the class itself. And then you expect the student to really get into an application stage. You have a problem. But which is where I think comes about the whole lot of a rigor in the entire learning cycle itself. So how do you really look at the learning cycle itself? Right from the time that the student comes into the university to the time that the student graduates. And this is where I think what Rupesh was talking about it is in terms of how do you really bring in the industry from multiple kind of a point of view. Now let me just give you something that we were able to do something in this area. One has been a whole lot of online courses that had been there in the business itself. For example, just before the student would come in, we have, for example, a partnership with Harvard, and we bring in those kinds of courses. And the students would are required to necessarily go through those before they really start with the MBA class. After they come in, right, the very first kind of a week, they are required to really tell us what is it that they have learned. And that kind of a learning gap, we are able to identify. The second part of it is in terms of the application, which is where I think something that we did in engineering education a couple of years ago, thanks to FICCI and Royal College of Engineering, Royal Academy of Engineering kind of a tie-up, is a whole lot of a project with Cranfield University in terms of a project-based learning. And I think that has really helped us in terms of making engineering education more and more application-driven.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm really sorry. I have a screen here which is flashing times up, and it's been flashing that for a while. We'll take these offline. I know there are more questions in the audience, but our panel members are going to be available, so I'm really sorry to disappoint you. I'd love to thank all of you for sharing your views. I know each one of you has a different use case of Coursera for Campus, and it's lovely to hear from you on, as an employer, what are your thoughts in terms of what universities should be doing. Thank you so much, and please join me in congratulating the panelists. Can we do a picture, please? Do you want us here? Yeah. Yeah, please, in the front. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Abish. Thank you. Can we play the video? Okay. Yeah. So we have two short, I think, things on the agenda to wrap up. So yeah, I was saying we have two last things on the agenda. Both are short. One, we've heard a lot from Manipal today about their experiences over the last almost 2 years. So the students and faculty of Manipal have put a video together, and it's a 3-minute video. I think it's fantastic what they've shared. I'd love for us to play that. I'd like to request your attention because I think some of the nuances of what they've put together are really exciting for me. And then I'd like to ask Jeff, after we've played the video, to share your reflections on the evening today and your closing remarks. Are we able to play it?
In the times that we are living in, every student is expected to be proficient in more than one area or one discipline. Manipal being a place where we have interdisciplinary crowd, it's a wonderful opportunity for any student to learn subjects which are far and removed from engineering.
In India, civilians and students like us who have to travel different places for work and education find it very difficult to participate in the election process. To solve this problem, we have came up with a solution to develop a voting portal which uses blockchain technology to make it more secure, robust, reliable, and accessible.
So the competition we participate in is Formula Student Germany, which is a huge international competition where teams from all over the world come to see who has the best Formula Student car. The competition keeps up with the current technology in the market. Every car competing in the competition should have some components or driverless systems in it.
As a hospital administrator resident, I was posted in Department of Medical Records. The first problem I thought needs to be addressed was the medical records audit. We generate a lot of data, but we don't get the insights out of the data. That I want to solve this by learning a Tableau and applying it in the hospital. I came across Manipal's tie-up with Coursera.
The online learning platforms have been gaining ground everywhere. Our students have taken online courses in a very big way. And Coursera is one very important platform which our students have been very much drawn to.
Coursera has extensively helped us in our journey by giving us a platform where we can learn anything we want from any of the faculties around the planet.
We started with a course on machine learning, which is an introduction to everything in this domain. For building our prototypes, we have used courses on Arduino and Raspberry Pi to quickly prototype our ideas and implement them correctly.
We've been successful in weaving Coursera in our ecosystem to enable the vision of a multicultural, multidisciplinary, and a lifelong learning experience.
The data is the new oil. Use more and more data, visualize and get more insight to take the decisions to ease the doctor's life, to improve the processes, and make the patient satisfied. That is my goal.
Since we think that blockchain has the potential to be the third revolution of internet, we want to be the first people to actually integrate blockchain into different government agencies as well as private sector.
The first goal we want to achieve is a podium finish in our competition, but we don't want to stop just there. Being an undergraduate team, it would be an honor to lay the groundwork for future driverless teams in India. So here's to a driverless future.
Congratulations to Ravi, Dr. Somashekar Bhatt, Adarsh, all of you who are in the room for some of this early success. Jeff, I'd like to invite you.
I'll wrap up very briefly with a big thank you for everyone who participated. Some of our speakers who've come around the world, Matthew and others, and also from distances around India to join us. You know, I've been the CEO now for coming on 2.5 years. Before this, I was the CEO of a company for 18 years. It was in fintech, and it was wonderful. We helped people prepare for retirement. I had the chance to spend a couple years away from work, traveling around the world with my wife. And when I got the call and the chance to join Coursera, my wife said, "You have to do this. This might be the most important thing you can do with the rest of your life." I have read a lot about lately history and sort of humanity, and I love that humans transcend in a way that nothing else in the world ever has, the differences that separate us. And I think that the combination of innovation and collaboration really has led to the prosperity of humanity. It has also created many of the challenges that we're facing. But what I'm most inspired by today is the way that we might be able to serve you by providing a platform, not just of technology, but of community, to help people come together, experiment, and share in a very generous way, not only our understanding of what the challenges are, but what the solutions might be. So it is our job to serve you by helping bring you together, share ideas, and solve the world's problems. And it's just been an inspiring night, and thank you again for coming. I appreciate it.